received before it's actually cast. Because once it's cast, you can't correct it anymore. But if it's, there's a point where you can receive it. If there's an error, then they have to have a consistent policy on how it can be remedied. But this was outside of that. And so just different things that I've kind of found that we need to strengthen, tighten up the policies and remove a lot of the ambiguity. And so I was fortunate that Speaker Phelan gave me the opportunity to be on this committee. I requested it. I actually requested this one in public health, and I got both of them that I wanted to be on. And fortunately, I still get to work with Chairman Click, who I was looking forward to working with on elections, and now look forward to working with on public health. And so, but our first committee hearing was productive, I think. We got to hear from DPS, from the Attorney General's office, from the Secretary of State's office. I think that a lot of questions were asked, and I think we got a lot of good information back from them. And that feedback is used to ensure that the bills that we pass and the bills that we're still putting together address issues, real issues that we have in the state. Our goal, as Briscoe or Chairman Kane mentioned a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, our goal is to make sure that elections, any eligible voter is still able to go out there and vote, and it's convenient to do so. But we want to have consistent standards across the state to make sure that no matter where you're at in the state, the situation, the system that you go and vote with is consistent. And so no matter where you're at, if you're planning to go vote in the morning at 7 a.m., it's open at 7 a.m. And we have locations evenly distributed around the county and the state. And so I think we're going to find that a lot of the legislation we push through, we're going to meet those demands. What else do we have? I think there was some questions I was asked to talk about this morning too. One of the things we learned about is the Secretary of State does a security audit around the state for each county. I had asked what that means. It is essentially a security stress test on the counties, on their and most of it is their policies and procedures. And we did find that there was there's a number of counties that have things that they need to tighten up on. A lot of what I'm finding is the issue is because there's ambiguity in the code, in the statute, and because we don't have very prescriptive language in there, different counties are doing things differently, and some of it does not meet security standards. And so we do need to continue to tighten that up. We do. I was looking at, I believe Senator Colcourse has the risk-based analysis of election integrity, and that's something we're going to continue to look at. And then the penalties. So when the Attorney General's office was giving their update or their briefing on the open cases that they have and the concerns and issues they have with prosecuting those, there is a backlog. We had a lot of new cases come in 2020, a substantial amount more. I think I have the numbers here. So the cases that were open in 2016 was 14, in 2017 was 45, 2018 was 35, 2019 was 27, and in 2020 they had 307 open cases. And so there's a lot of backlog right now as the Attorney General's office continues to investigate those, packages those for prosecution, and so they need to make sure that they have the manpower and resources they need to be able to do those. On our side, we need to make sure that the statutes are clear enough. It's kind of funny. It's in our mind, it needs to be very specific when it comes to the processes. But some of these issues, when it comes to what can be prosecuted or what ends up being fraudulent, if it's too specific, then it becomes something the defense is able to have more cases thrown out. And so we need to make sure that it's broad enough when it comes to potential fraud so that they're able to do their job. And so we're going to walk that fine line, make sure that the statutes read to where they're able to enforce and prosecute those bad actors. And so,
Representative, can you repeat those numbers? Somebody wanted to hear the numbers again. If you could repeat those, please.
Absolutely. So in 2016, it was 14. In 2017, 45. 2018, it was 35. In 2019, it was 27. And in 2020, it was 307. And so there's a large number for 2020. I know there's a lot of people looking. One of the other notes that he made was that the number of individual bad actors is shrinking. And so I think what he's alluding to is that there is less individuals doing it and doing it more on a much bigger scale. And so these are larger number of votes being potentially fraudulently taken by fewer people, and so they're more organized, and so we'll see how those end up going. We can, from the state legislature side, we're just making sure that we are putting together bills that help to address these issues, and we have some omnibus bills we're working on, and we will start to hear elections bills in the House or on our committee shortly. I think next Thursday will be when we get our first bills to look at, and I'm looking forward to it. I think we're gonna find a lot of good solutions to these problems that we have to make sure that here in Texas, at least, our elections are secure.
So did I hear, before we start having you answer, boy, there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat. But before we start asking that question, did you say next week is going to start testimony? Did I hear you say that?
Yeah, so today was yesterday was testimony for the three presenters, the Secretary of State, DPS, and Attorney General's office. Next Thursday, we will start to hear bills. And I think it's today that they'll list out the initial hearings list, and I think that can be amended and adjusted until next Thursday. And so your feedback on those items are extremely important. We're getting feedback all the way up until yesterday. A lot of that went into the questions I was able to ask on the of those three members. And as we go to this next Thursday, if there's bills that you have questions or concerns about, now's our time to make sure that we're addressing those. And so you're welcome to send those questions to myself, or you can send them to other members, and we'll make sure that we're identifying those concerns and addressing them, and maybe behind the scenes, or maybe they're during the testimony, but we'll address those items.
So can you give us the email address? And I'm going to ask Karen if you would end up typing this email address. Now, you might get hundreds, but you know what? People do want to be able to communicate. And also, we'll ask them to send this information to our email, which is the texaselectionsreform@gmail.com. But if you can, did you just, well, you did that very well. I should have just asked you. There you go. And that we hear, so if you're going to send something to the representative, CC our email, and we're the Bisa and Shirley, they actually put that together and send it on to the chairman too. So this is one way that we're able to communicate, which is very important. And so with that being said, Representative, are you ready for the hot seat? So Karen, are you on? Where I know you're on.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Because she reminded me I was not recording. So it was being recorded. So Karen, it's now your job to start asking. We're going to do questions for the representative, and then we're going to do an update on a couple other items that we've talked about in the past. So like we'll have an update on HR1. We're going to talk about the Electoral College, a resolution that we talked about last time. And so anyway, okay, Karen, you get to start it.
All right, Representative Jetton, Is a written testimony given the same weight as an oral testimony?
Well, Chair Click may be able to better answer that. I know we're accepting them. I think I would say that there's probably equal weight in that. We get those written testimonies, oral testimonies, sometimes more impactful depending on what the subject is and how controversial. But I saw Chairman Click come off of mute, so maybe she can better answer.
Yeah, this is the first session that we've allowed oral submissions on bills. So we are learning as we go along on this, but I would encourage folks to be concise, to the point. Don't send us a book. We have to read a great deal, reading through legislation, which may be lengthy. Try to be concise, to the point, boil it down, and you're more likely to have it read thoroughly.
Great.
All right, thank you. The next question is two parts. Are all committees taking comments submitted online? And are there plans now for changing the rules since the mask mandate has been lifted?
So the first one, again, Chairman Click may be able to better answer, but I would say that it's my impression that they're all accepting online submissions. As far as the rules change, that's something that I think will come up for debate next week and or in the coming weeks, and we will know at that point whether things end up changing. But it'll be a rule change that will have to be discussed and voted on the floor, I believe. And so no changes at the moment.
All right. And
yeah, I would agree with all of that. All committees and bills.
You went silent on us, Chairwoman.
Under the rules, all committees are accepting written submissions.
Got it. Thank you. And Representative Jetton, what is your opinion of HB 2283? That is Phil King's relating to the funding and expenditures made by certain bodies governing elections. That eliminates the use of outside/third-party funds to conduct elections. Will it pass the Elections Committee and the House? Is there a companion bill in the Senate?
So I haven't looked at that bill specifically, but when you talk about the third-party funds coming in, that's something that has been discussed a lot. I know I'm against it. I think some of my colleagues are as well. We're, in Fort Bend County, we saw where a mega voting site was established, at a new location, in a centralized location in the county. It was funded almost completely by private funds, and when you have private funds coming into our elections process, I think it starts to add doubt, and that's just not necessary. Our elections in Texas should be paid for by Texas, and or by at least from government funds, and to have private donors come in and prop up our election process or manipulate it, change it in any way is very concerning, and I think that there's pretty good consensus on that from our side.
All right. Does the Elections Committee have a portal for accepting written testimony?
We should, and I will have to find that and send it to you. You should be able to find it on the house.texas.gov website with likely under committees, but I'll have to get those details for you.
Okay.
Write a note to myself.
And whoa.
Did Representative Click or Chairman Click, can you tell, I'm looking here to see if where they could do that. Do we go to committees? Hello? Am I muted?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Could you repeat that question again, Karen? And then I'm trying to see there about a portal of, go ahead and repeat it, Karen.
Sure. Does the Elections Committee have a portal for accepting written testimony?
All the committees do, and you typically open those portals for the written submissions on the day that you're having the committee hearings. Some of them, like on the recent ERCOT matter, they kept the portals open for a couple of days after the hearing, but most of the committees at the end of the hearing will close their portals.
So there is a limited time. You can't just open it up in days in advance and submit it. You have to know what day the committee meeting is then, ma'am?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is the safest way to make sure that your submissions are received and included.
For elections committee, we're meeting on Thursdays. So Thursday mornings at 8 a.m.
All right. The next question is there a way to standardize security protocols surrounding the voting machines that are currently being used in major metropolitan counties in Texas? If the machines are not secure and reliable, it will not matter what other election integrity measures are in place.
Yeah, so that's something that we've been digging into more. The Secretary of State office works closely with the Attorney General's office to do all kinds of testing, and that's after the federal government certifies it. So at the state level, it has to go through a pretty extensive, exhaustive test before it's certified with the state to be used here. That's part of the reason we don't have Dominion here in the state. It's failed the test twice, and they're not likely to come back. But there is a test currently in place to ensure those systems are working. But this goes back to that consistency across the state to ensure that they are being operated correctly, because some of those tests are done based on certain processes and policies being followed in a certain way. And so if those policies aren't being followed correctly, then you do have exposure. And so we do need to make sure that we're providing good education, training on these machines, and more consistency across the state to ensure that it's being done correctly. I think that's where we're going to find exposure, is just the inconsistency on the policies and procedures in some areas.
And the next question, will the Elections Committee ask the Appropriations Committee to provide additional funding to the Attorney General's office for more investigators and prosecutors to pursue election fraud?
Well, it's going to be up to the Attorney General's office to make that request, and I believe they've expressed that desire to them. I'm not sure that it's the place of the committee to make that request. We had our hearings. They know, they're aware of the backlog and the needs. And it'll be up to the Appropriations Committee at that point to determine if any adjustments are needed there.
Okay. What are the issues that you've heard so far of election integrity with vote centers?
There's been a lot of discussion on that. I think, go ahead. Did you have something?
The big thing on vote centers and election integrity is, in some of the bigger counties, there is some lag because just the amount of data that's running through the system at one time. You've got to be able to verify that someone has not voted in another location. So you've got to update that file in real time. And in some of the bigger counties, there's a little bit of lag time when that occurs. Vote centers, as far as your electronic poll books, seem to work really well in your small and medium-sized counties. And if you think about it, there's not as much data because there's fewer voters voting transactions. So there is some issues with the lag time for the electronic poll books.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go. Okay, I'll jump in. So one of the other concerns that have come up that I'm kind of worried about looking at when it comes to voting center is just the placement of the voting locations. Because we find in some counties that even in Fort Bend County, in our Republican area, there's fewer polling locations than there are in some of our Democrat areas, and we want to make sure that it's evenly distributed across the county, and that's something that's kind of forced when you have precinct level voting locations versus the voting centers, and that may be addressing the density requirements or something else in there to make sure that we're not reducing polling locations in areas for any reason other than it just being more convenient or the location type.
All right, the next question is, did the Attorney General say that the office say that they've normally been able to take care of the number of cases each year and close them before 2020?
I mean, so if you do the simple math on it is, I mean, there's some 500 something cases open, and so obviously they're not all from 2020, and so there was in these prosecutions, the investigations take some time. The 307 that popped up last year in 2020 is based on those numbers abnormal, and so I think arguably it was sufficient before, and there's a backlog and stress on the AG's office right now trying to get through all those. But a question that I had for him is do we expect this to be the case in 2022 and 2024? And that's hard to figure out at this point. And so whether they're going to need this additional funding in the future is we're not sure of.
All right. Representative, do you have an opinion on why the Office of the Attorney General is reluctant to admit that they are understaffed for the growing number of election fraud cases?
I think some of it has to do with this mere fact that it was just 1 year where it was a large number of cases that have come in, and it is unknowable how many are going to pop up in 2021 and 2022. And beyond that, I couldn't tell you. But they're right. I've heard different numbers over the last 3 months of asking questions about how many prosecutors they have, how big their team is. Funny enough, even we had an initial meeting with the day before the testimony. I got different numbers that day than I did the day of, and so I think that we do need a more clear understanding of what that group looks like in terms of how many investigators do they have and how many prosecutors do they have and how many. They made it clear yesterday that they're dedicated to elections integrity now. They made that change in the last 2 or 3 years. And but we need to know how many people are working within that area to constantly investigate and prosecute these cases.
All right. The next question was, will written testimony submissions be posted? And if so, where on TLO?
Good question. I don't have the answer to that one. I'm sure Quick does.
I am not sure whether they will be posted on the committee website. We are still learning because this is a new process as to how that will play out.
1 second here.
All right. Perhaps Chairman Click can answer this next question. What can be done to clean up rolls, and do you think dead men voting is an issue?
We participate. I got funding last legislative session in the appropriations bill for Texas to participate in a cross-check program. We are participating in ERIC. There are a number of other states. I believe the number is 25 or 26 states right now where we bump up our voter list to other states to make sure that we don't have people registered in multiple states. We also get information from the Social Security Death Index so that people that have passed away can be removed from the list. There's ongoing list maintenance that even before ERIC, you can go onto the Secretary of State's website and see by county, by month, the number of voter registrations that were canceled and the reason. It might be somebody was convicted of a felony. It might be somebody's lost capacity and no longer is eligible to vote. It may be a death. It may be a duplicate registration. Maybe somebody's moved from one county to the other. List maintenance is going on all the time, but the participation in ERIC is a means for us to give more tools to the state to use in cleaning up our voter rolls.
All right. Next question. Has the list been created for each Texas county as to what type of voter machines are used and what type of software is used in each machine?
That information is available from the Secretary of State.
All right. And can Texas pass legislation that allows us to not comply with an executive order? I presume they're referring to the HR 1, which passed in Congress regarding elections.
HR 1 is actually a bill. Executive order would be something done by the president. And quite frankly, there is a great deal of discussion right now. Some other states have made attempts to do that. And we are having discussion as to whether or not we could do so as well.
So far, that's just passed out of the House. It's sitting in the Senate, as far as I'm aware of. So we haven't. We're going to have to see what happens in the Senate now.
Are committee meetings open to the public? And if so, the Capitol isn't open until 9 a.m. How does one get into an 8 a.m. committee meeting?
Well, we had guests, and so I believe that they're opening it earlier now so that you can go to a committee room. But we had guests in our hearing yesterday morning at 8 a.m. And so come down. Otherwise, there's also it is being broadcasted online as well.
Okay. Let's make this the last question, or I'll give you two more. So Karen, you can do this one you're talking, one other one, and then we'll go into our reports. But I mean, we could go on for hours. This is such great information.
So these look like toughies. Have you been able to investigate the 307 number? Is this computer originated, location, foreign, or local? Could this be new people entering into Texas? Or are these issues from mail-in, or are these at polls?
I'm unsure what 307 is.
Me neither.
That was something that I've heard briefly in the last couple of days. I need to do more research on it before I can answer definitively.
All right. I understand that Texas doesn't have Dominion, but we have all the same problems with security. What is the name of the hardware and software used in Texas?
So HART and ES&S are the two big ones. The tests that they've run are, in the systems that operate in Texas aren't connected to the internet. And I think that's a key point to ensuring that these machines aren't being hacked and used, or votes being stored in foreign countries or foreign servers. They are stored on the polling booths as votes are being registered. They're on drives there locally, and they stay there until we get them to a tabulating machine that is also not connected to the internet. And so this is all done locally, and the process is secure in that way. I know that the concern with those other systems is that they have the potential to store those on other servers, and those would not be accepted in Texas.
And this question was to Representative Click's answer. What is ERIC and what does it stand for?
I'm not sure if she heard that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I had my button muted. ERIC is a private organization in which member states, there's a membership that you have to pay to participate in ERIC. States have gone together to be able to improve election security and make additional tools for the states to do the list maintenance. You know, federal law requires that states do list maintenance. There are some prohibitions within 60 days of a federal election. They are not able to do list maintenance where they're removing voters, but at other times you are. And, you know, it's one more tool to make that task easier because people in our society are pretty mobile. They move from one state to the other. So it's important to find out if somebody has moved to another state, then efforts need to be made to identify who those folks are and to remove them from the voter rolls in the state that they no longer live in.
Okay, wow, a lot of good information. And again, the chat will be, Mary's going to copy that at the end. And then that way we will figure out how we can put it on the website so that you guys can look at that. And if we need to get any additional answers. So, Representative Jacey and Chairman Stephanie, thank you. I mean, you guys are valuable. I mean, you got on the hot seat right away, JC. You just didn't know it was going to be, I mean, right there going at it, but you really did an awesome job. And we might have to have you back as we go forward. I think Chairman Click told me that there's only like 89 days left, but we sure are going to bring you back, and you're always welcome to join in at any Friday morning because we love having you.
Thank you. No, I really do. I just want to say real quick, I really do appreciate the discussion and the dialogue. This is what it's all about. This is why we're going through this. I mean, really, if you have thoughts, ideas, if you disagree with anything I said, you know, please reach out. Let's dig into it more. You know, we're trying to find answers and make sure that we're coming up with the right solutions and pushing through the right legislation. So I do want to continue the dialogue. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Wow. Awesome. Well, I'm going to, Bisa, can you give us a real quick update on HR1? And as I said earlier, we are going to have someone speaking about it next week on the Friday call, Dave Bossy. But obviously there's been a lot of activity as the representative had just mentioned. So Bisa, can you give us an update, please?
So HR1 was voted on March 3rd. It passed 22 yays, 220 yays, 210 nays, and 2 not voting. So I want everybody to realize how close it was. They only got that through by 10 votes. And now it moves on to, and we had one Democrat too that voted against HR1. So it's important, you know, we've been talking about reach out to those Democratic representatives. One of his statements was that his constituents opposed the redistricting portion of the bill, as well as the section on public finances. And so, you know, we did have a Democrat vote against that bill. Now it goes to the Senate. So in the Senate, it would be subject to the filibuster, perhaps. Could I give Steve Ministeri about 2 minutes to talk about that? Steve, could you talk about that?
Is he here?
Yeah.
No, I'm here.
Hi, Steve.
So the Senate rules require, currently, with the exception of judicial nominees and a very complicated process called reconciliation, except for those two things, the rules require basically 60 votes in order to move on to debate. So that gives me great optimism that if the Senate doesn't change its rules, and there's been historically a lot of tradition which puts pressure on the senators not to change that we still have 50 United States senators on our side. So in the event they don't change the rules, I remain fairly confident that they're not going to get to 60 votes. So my guess is that this is the Democrats know this, and this is just a way to get Republicans what they think on record to say that we're against voting rights. But let me just make one point on this. This bill would be just a total disaster for a lot of reasons, but one that's particularly troublesome is that basically the body that would be overseeing this would not be a bipartisan or nonpartisan body. It would be an appointed one. So with Biden as president, you basically would have the Democrats as being the referees on these rules. So there's another dozen reasons why this is terrible. And Mr. Bossi, I'm sure we'll go over it next week. But first order of business is making sure our Republicans stay in the Republican position on this, and then put pressure on Democrats. So I got my fingers crossed that nothing changes, because this would be an unmitigated disaster for not only our party, but the country.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Steve. Okay, go ahead, Bisa.
I think that wraps it up. And,
Okay, great.
Bob-
That's very important. And thank you both, Steve, also for sharing that too. Then I want to move on. Last week, we talked about the Electoral College. And Pat, if you're on, do you want to just chat a moment about the resolution?
Okay, I'm on. We wrote the resolution after we heard the excellent presentation that Bisa gave last week about the threat that the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact has against the Electoral College. So I wrote this, and it's very brief, but I wanted it to be able to be used by all kinds of clubs who could make their own modifications. Now, they don't need to be long, but I think it's important, especially if you have a Democratic legislator, you need to send them and let them know where your group stands on this. And so the more support from clubs and people we can get to say this would be a disaster, not only for the state of Texas, but for the country, if they could get enough votes to make this a reality.
So are we ready to post that on the website? Is that going to go onto our website?
Yes, it's ready to post on the website.
Okay, so I'll have Erica put that up today. So if you guys are interested, you can go to the TonyAnnDeshield.com under election reform, and you'll see that that resolution. Thank you, Pat. I really appreciate you doing that. It's important to have that, a template to start out and then build if you want to on that. Okay, so then let us go into the, we're going to go, Bisa, I'm going to have you do this argument on the Supreme Court after I get some of the action items done, okay? Because I want to make sure we get this. Ladies and gentlemen, I ended up asking Heidi Hahn Toxler, I think I said it, trust me, I'm the worst. Steve's bad at names, but I think I take number one on the names. I'm just going to take that away from you, Steve. Anyway, this is the Lost Pines Republican Women, and I have seen a number. I see their president Carol's on the call. A number of their members are here. But what I've asked Heidi to do is to share an action item that they are doing that I think is just really important to hear. So what I'd like you to do is to Heidi, are you there? Where do I see? I know you're on because I saw your name just a few minutes ago. Can you unmute and talk to me for a second?
Hi there.
There you are. Hi. Okay. So Heidi is going to give us a briefing of what their club is doing, which is just great. And it's an example, something that you might want to take on. So Heidi, I'm going to give you a few minutes to tell us about what you guys are doing that is so incredible at Lost Pines Republican Women.
Okay. Hi. Thank you. Just letting you know, I'm the membership chair, so it wasn't me initially organizing all of this. I can't take credit for that, but I do feel blessed that we have great leadership and a very active group. And our president, Kathleen Queso, and Carol Spencer, the past president, held a meeting for us on redistricting so that we could discuss the talking points. And being new to politics, I really don't know anything about it. And it was enlightening, but I still didn't feel I knew enough to compose my own testimony. So they offered a second meeting, which we have held, and that was very productive. And so essentially, we wanted to give an opportunity to people to get together where we would actually help them craft a personalized letter and actually get it submitted for them, so they didn't have to struggle with finding the right link and technology issues. So out of that, we had one board member had read through all of the January written testimonies, and she found overwhelmingly Democrat testimonies that wanted the independent commission. Well, we know where that would lead. So I had an interest in kind of going out and researching testimonies, and I went through all of February and I tallied it and found that it was also overwhelmingly Democrat. And I brought it to the board, and they realized we really needed to do more. So we've actually added 2 additional workshops that are open house style, 4 hours on next Tuesday night, and then 4 hours on Wednesday morning. So people can come and go and get help with understanding the issues and how it really relates to them, because it needs to come from a personal perspective so that it's taken, I think, more seriously. So we're really excited to have those. What I found was I was surprised that it looks like the Democrats outnumber us, and they don't. And the only way that we can change that is to do something about it and send our personal testimonies in. So the bottom line is we've all seen how Democrats and the media have controlled the narratives. And I think we just need to step up and do more to stop that.
So this is so impressive, and thank you. I mean, and I had said current president is Carol. I'm sorry that I misspoke there. But could you guys put on your could you put it in the chat where your newsletter is, where it's located, so that people can see what you're doing, and that if they have anybody in the area that wants to go, that they know that they're welcome. And also that there might be a contact, somebody wants to have a template of what you're doing, because I think it's very impressive. So if you guys could put that in the chat. Oh, there you go. I see it.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
put the link up, Tony Ann. I hadn't put the link up, but I'll do
hi,
that.
Carol. Okay. if
How are
could
you?
do that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi. Hi, thank you, Carol. Guys, you guys are doing awesome. Yesterday, when I was at the not yesterday, when was I there? Wednesday. They ended up, you can't really see it here, but well, anyway, it's somewhere. They have a handout that, I mean, they had people, they have their committee chairs, and they were giving reports, and their legislative person handed out front and back one sheet that gave the link, the Capitol Texas Gov link, and it also talked about the legislative priorities. Number 1 is election integrity. And so very good information to share. And it's just the one sheet. So that is something that's great action items. And also I did my job. I got more people on the call this week. So
Oh, no.
I know that they did from the clubs, and also both meetings I attended this week. So please continue to invite people to the calls. Don't forget, we are in an election. Now we're in election for school board, all different local elections. And then, of course, there's the election that is happening in the congressional elections that has 23 candidates. Yes, 23. Obviously, that's going to go to a runoff. I mean, I'd be surprised if anybody could take that. But anyway, that is also happening up in the Tarrant. Tommy, what is that? CD? What CD is that? I can't remember the numbers. It's 6. Anyway, that's a congressional.
I was
What
ready.
number, Tommy?
6.
6. Oh, I was right.
Congressional.
Thank you, Tommy. So anyway, if you guys know somebody that wants to get involved in the race up there, find the candidate, work for the candidate that best represents you, and end up recruiting people. Ask people to get involved. Just have them shadow you and get them to come to go to help a candidate, go to a meeting, go to like something like Lost Pines is doing, educational. It is just so important.
You can, Tony Ann, you can, they're listed all on the internet now. Just Google candidates for Senatorial District 6 and they'll list all of them
Great.
with
Thank you.
addresses. and everything.
Thank you, Tommy. Also, check and see something we really, you might consider doing, and we've got the election coming up. Do you want to be a judge? Do you want to be a clerk? Do you want to be a poll watcher? But judges and clerks are so important. And during these off elections, especially on May 1st, they need people. I want you to consider that. Go and talk to your county chair or the person that might be in charge, or your county clerk or your elections administrator. Guys, we need you to be one to step up and do that. Bisa ended up doing that this past time. What did you do, Bisa, this last time?
I was on the early voting ballot board, and that is really important. Like Representative Jetton talked about, to be in there and make sure that they follow the law.
And then also, Tanya, I like what Tanya Robertson, who is one of our SREC members, very active, that she also talked about that written testimony and how important that is. And it was mentioned throughout the whole conversation. But, get it ready, because it looks like you do it when they actually are hearing that bill, the one that might be you're most passionate about. So I ask you to have it prepared, run it past somebody, make sure you're condensed, your talking points are good and they can see it. And as you just heard from Heidi, very important that Republicans have their voices heard, because we haven't been very good at that. And that's what we need to work on. I also want to announce that we have, again, our guest speaker next week is Dave Bossy. We'll continue to talk about HR1. Loved hearing what Steve Munisteri had to say about that. I'm hoping that that's the way it goes also, but it's still good that we definitely need to contact our state senators. And if you know somebody in another state, and it's like I asked the other day, does anybody know anyone in West Virginia? Call the people in other states, but like West Virginia, Senator Joe Manchin, he is one that is a swing vote. Important that they hear from their constituents, if not us. And also then I also have talked with Senator Joan Huffman's office, and she will be on the call on March 26th. And so we will have her on that day talking about court redistricting and what's happening there. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you for participating, for being here. I mean, go out, make a difference, do something, but I want you to share. If you have ideas, remember, share those ideas at Texas elections reform@gmail.com. Please, I thank all of you for what you do, and I want to hear your stories, and that we might be able to share them again at another call. Thank you for being with us this morning. Can't believe an hour goes. Yes, Mary, were you going to say something? Oh, you're saying goodbye. Can't hear you. You're muted. Okay. Okay, later. Okay, everybody, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Tony Ann.
Thank you.
Hey, it's great.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tony.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
My first meeting. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Glad you could join us.
Tony Ann, I was just going to share that I've got the chat and I'm going to clean it up and send it to you and Bisa, okay?
Nice. And then we can post it. Awesome, Mary. Thank you so much. I appreciate you doing that. Goodbye, everybody. Hi, Donna.
Hey,
Hey,
Good.
Donna.
I've been here. I promise you. I've been.
I know. I see you every time. I keep my eyes on you.
Yeah, I need to know what's going on, and y'all are helping a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a lot of SREC members, county chairs, grassroots. All of you guys make such a difference, and you're all such a good team.
Thanks, Tony Ann. Good job. Good
Oh,
meeting.
thanks, David. It's good to see you. I saw you pop in there. Appreciate
Good to
you
be on.
Thanks.
Tony Ann, could I ask you, would you send me that PowerPoint so I can get it out this weekend?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I'm glad you reminded me. I'll do that right now.
Thank you so
In
much.
fact, I'll do it from this one.
Thank
As soon as we
you.
get off, I'm putting it right here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm glad you reminded me.
All right, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Mary Hefferman, you're invited out to our clubhouse anytime.
I know, I'm excited. What time is it Tuesday? Is it day or evening?
Tuesday for the election integrity, we're doing 4 to 8. Wednesday,
Okay.
daytime.
Wednesday
Kathleen, I'm
daytime.
sorry that I misspoke and didn't call you out as the president. Boy, you guys are doing an awesome job.
Well, I am very blessed, Tony. I have a fabulous board, and they are just picking up the slack, and I'm just doing what a leader should do, lead.
Lead and delegate, right? There you go.
Delegate. They're doing great.
I can see that.
Yeah. We have a Caring for America project every month.
I see that you have Charlie Kirk coming out too.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah.
We're selling tickets like crazy now. And then we have another fundraiser, June 6th, Women in War.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yep. All right, Mary.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, hon.
Tony, and the other thing is we have Texas Public Policy Foundation who's working on that election integrity project with McCall. They're coming in April. So I've sent a note to see which speakers I'm going to have, and I'll share that next week's meeting.
Great. We please do. Remind me, because my mind, I forget sometimes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end, everybody. Bye. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Bye, Denise. Good seeing you.